Who is the new king of Israel? 1 Samuel chapter 16. We're going to get into this today to learn more about what's going on. So remember, Saul has been rejected by God because Saul was not keeping the commandments. He was doing things the way he thought they should be done, not the way that God said to have them done. So chapter 16 now, the Lord chooses David of Bethlehem as king. He is anointed by Samuel. Saul chooses David as his companion and armor bearer. So we're going to see some interesting dynamics here. Verse 1, and the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil and go. I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. So this is continuing revelation. A prophet of God is getting revelation for what needs to happen with the Lord's plans and will during that time. This isn't waiting and relying on what Moses wrote to tell them what to do now. This is new revelation to help them apply principles today. So continuing revelation is a very important thing. This is getting into, now God has picked already who is going to replace Saul. Now, Samuel, this gives us a little insight. Samuel has been holding back at this point, basically. In fact, verse 2, we're going to get a little bit more into this. And when Samuel says, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, take a heifer with thee and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. So Samuel's going, wait a minute here. If I go to Bethlehem, which is like neighbors, they're, where Saul lives and Bethlehem are next to each other. Because remember, Saul is part of the Benjamite tribe in Gilead. I'm trying to remember now. I'm getting mixed up with Gibeon, actually. I think it's Gibeon is what it was. But here's the thing is there's a falling out with Saul and Samuel. Samuel, of course, was appointed by God to put Saul in place. Saul turned out to make a different set of choices. Unfortunately, this won't be the first king who has done this. Started good and went bad, unfortunately. But the thing is that Saul and Samuel probably haven't talked to each other a whole lot. And Samuel's afraid that there's kind of an uneasiness between those two. And Samuel's afraid that if he goes out that way to do anything, that Saul's going to be like, nope, you're a threat to my ruling. You've already told me I'm out. Saul's blaming the messenger, basically. So Samuel's worried. And so God says, well, go do a sacrifice. He can't blame you for going over that way if you're there to do a sacrifice. So you're the priest, go do a sacrifice. And while you're doing that, call Jesse over to talk with you, basically. So verse 3, he says, and call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. And thou shalt anoint unto me him whom I name unto thee. So this is God saying, I'm not going to tell you the whole plan, but I want you to go to this step. And then I'll tell you once you get there what the next step is. Not an uncommon way that revelation comes is not to tell us the whole grand scheme of everything, but to give us the next step. And when we do that, then he'll give us the next step. And when we do that, he'll give us the next step. That's building our faith. All right, verse 4, and Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming and said, comest thou peaceably? So they're a little worried too. Samuel's kind of he's been on the down low for a while, it sounds like. And the people are a little worried because, of course, last time Samuel was big and doing lots of big things, Saul was being held accountable for his sins and problems and being told, your kingdom's done, Bob, you're out. When you're dead, it's gone. So there's a lot of uneasiness in Israel around what's going on here. And so verse 5, Samuel responds back to them. He says, peaceably, I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons and called them to the sacrifice. So he went and he's got them coming to help out. Jesse's now a part of this entourage that's helping with this sacrifice. Verse 6, it came to pass when they were come that he looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. Okay, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. So this is verse 7 is going to give us a really important point. So when just to kind of understand this, okay, so Samuel has got the cow, the heifer, they're going to sacrifice. He's called a bunch of these people in the area, Jesse and his sons, to come with him and say, come with me, sanctify yourselves, I'll work with you. So he anoints them, sanctifies them, goes through those responsibilities to purify them and get them ready to help. And then they're gathered together, they're going to help to make the sacrifice work. And Samuel in verse 6, he's looking at this Eliab and going, this has got to be the guy. This has got to be the guy. And in verse 7, we find out that he has a good countenance and he's a tall guy. So Samuel's probably thinking, this guy has the attributes to be the king. He's a tall, pretty strong dude, nice looking guy. This is who God is thinking of. And God tells him in verse 7, nope, I'm not looking at that. So continuing on verse 7, he says, for the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. Very important principle that we understand. Why are some people called to callings? Because the Lord can see their heart, not their physical appearance, their heart. Sometimes I think we think of some people as not capable of doing certain things, but we don't know their heart, what's going on inside of them. And God does know that. And so he uses that to understand things. So God is telling him, nope, it's not Eliab. It's not him. He's not the tall, good looking guy. That's not who I'm calling. So verse 8, then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel. So he's bringing his sons in front of Samuel. And he said, neither hath the Lord chosen this. So it sounds like Samuel and Jesse have an idea of what's going on. Samuel maybe told Jesse, but we don't see that here. But we're getting, this is, sometimes we lose little pieces in the translation. In order for Jesse to pass his sons in front of Samuel, Jesse has to know what's going on. So Samuel at some point has probably said, Jesse, the Lord's picking one of your sons to be the next king. I don't know which one, but I'll know when I see him. And so Jesse is gathering them in and working on this. So he's passing. So Eliab is probably his most logical son to be the king. And Samuel says, nope, it's not him. So Abinadab goes by. Samuel says, nope, it's not him. So verse 9, then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither hath the Lord chosen this. So it's not Shammah. Verse 10, and Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord hath not chosen these. So he's going, nope, next, nope, next, nope, next, not getting it. None of them. God's not inspiring me on any of these men. This is not right. So verse 11, and Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest. And behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. And so he's going, yeah, I've got another. Samuel's like, dude, is this all your sons? Is this really all of your sons? And Jesse's like, no, actually, this isn't my youngest son, who's not very old at all. He's just a young boy. He is not here. He's tending. He's doing his chores. Basically, he's tending the flocks. So Samuel says, okay, dude, we're not going to dinner. We're not sitting down. We're not gonna, move on until I meet your other son. Go get him. So he sent a messenger to go get his youngest son. Verse 12, and he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, and withal of a beautiful countenance, and goodly to look to. So verse 12 means he was a decent looking boy, basically. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Now, this is David, and David was small. He wasn't a big guy, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the strongest. A nice kid. He had a beautiful countenance, Probably was a good-looking kid for his age, but he had kind of a spirit around him a little bit, kind of resonating. That's the guy. Go anoint him. So verse 13, then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. So he anoints David to be the next king. Now Saul is still the current king of Israel. Saul has not died or has left that office. So David is now anointed. Okay, so this as we transition here, we're going to transition to Saul. Now this is important to understand what's happening in verse 14, okay? Because Saul is the king. He was anointed the king. He's the king. But he was told, your kingdom's not moving forward. You're gone. Basically, we're kind of letting you live out the rest of your days as a king, but you're not going to be king forever, and your kids aren't going to be king. It's your line is done. So now, in somewhat secretive, not like publicly announced stuff, David was anointed as the next king. Now the word does spread, so we're gonna look into that too. But now we're going to learn a little bit more about what's happening to Saul about this time. Okay, so verse 14, but the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Now, verse 14 is an important one because in footnote C, Joseph Smith tells us that it's not a spirit from the Lord, but a spirit which was not of the Lord troubled him. So the thing is the Lord's mantle that was on Saul has left, and now that's over to David. But the thing is there's an opportunity where Satan, working in the background, said, opportunity, get Saul. So now he's being worked on. The evil spirits are trying to influence Saul to thwart the efforts that God's trying to put together with furthering Israel, basically. Because the evil spirits know who David is and probably what they're supposed to do. So they're trying to mess this up. Okay, verse 15, Saul's servant said unto him, behold, now an evil spirit from God troubleth thee. Again, mistranslation, it's not an evil spirit from God. It is an evil spirit which is not of God, troubleth thee. Okay, God does not send us evil spirits. He doesn't send devils to do his work. Okay, he works around their purposes to get his work done. Oftentimes they end up inadvertently helping God, but not because he's manipulating them to do that. He knows their choices. He knows where they're going to go, and he's using that to his advantage, basically. So an evil spirit is working on Saul to help him, probably to tempt him, to stir him up so that we can make a mess of this future king. Verse 16, let our Lord now command thy servants, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is a cunning player on an harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit, which is not from God, is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. So his servants are going, you've got something troubling you. You've got some problems going on. Look, let's get a guy who can play a really good harp, bring in some music to soothe you, to calm you down. You're stressed out about something that's going on. Verse 17, and Saul said unto his servants, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Verse 18, then answered one of the servants and said, behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. So they're going, the servant's like, I know somebody who can do this, basically. Well, let's go talk to Jesse and get one of his boys. He's got this boy that's a really great guy that, like they tell him here, he's a mighty, valiant man. So he's very honest, very integrous guy. A man of war, meaning he is learning how to fight. He's learning how to do things. He's not afraid to get out there and get scrappy. He's prudent in matters, so he knows how to administer things. A comely person, meaning he's not like gorgeous, he's not a Gaston type thing from Beauty and the Beast. But he's a good guy, and he's got good qualities and attributes of personality and things, which is good. And the Lord is with him. The Lord you can tell he's got the Spirit with him. So verse 19, wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse and said, send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. So David's out there with the sheep. Okay, David, come in. Your king has asked for you. So verse 20, and Jesse took an ass laden with bread and a bottle of wine and a kid and sent them by David his son unto Saul. So Jesse's going, oh my gosh, this is an honor. The king is honoring me with the need of my son. So I'm going to send my son, and I'm going to send a kind of a big thank you, a way to kind of get in the good graces with the king along with him as well to help out. Verse 21, and David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. So David and Saul became good friends. They had a relationship together there, as far as friendship, connecting. David really helped Saul out. Saul, oh, I appreciate it, David. You're such a great guy, for helping me out. So he became the armor bearer for Saul, basically. Verse 22, and Saul sent to Jesse, saying, let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. So in essence, what Saul is asking in this verse is, I want David to be a part of my administration. David's going to be a part of us. He's going to live with us. We're kind of bringing him into our fold and our household, basically, over here. So that's what's going on there. Now, verse 23, and it came to pass when the evil spirit not from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. Now, this could literally be an evil spirit that we're learning about in here that is troubling him. Why is the evil spirit leaving? Maybe it's because David has the spirit with him, and that's driving this. The evil spirit can't stand being in the presence of David. Maybe what's happening here is not so much an evil spirit, but mental health issues that is being misinterpreted as an evil spirit because they didn't know what to do back then for a lot of stuff. And Saul's got anxiety issues. And whenever he feels this anxiousness inside of him, like something else has taken over his body, or he feels different than he normally does, which you do. If you've ever experienced anxiety, it kind of feels like it's not you in a way. It's a different person or a different personality that's taken over for a little bit. So maybe Saul has some mental health issues, and that's being this interpretation. And so when somebody plays the harp for him, which of course all they had back then was live music. There was no recordings or anything, and a little more simplified music than what we have today. But the playing of the harp soothed him. It calmed him down. Soothing music. We all know that music can soothe the soul, can relax us, calm us down, as well as fire us up. But he played a nice song, and that helped Saul relax and not be so anxious about stuff. So either way, it doesn't necessarily matter which way it is, just that this is what's happening. So I think there's a good chance this is not a real evil spirit, basically, but actually anxiety. Saul's developed some major anxiety issues, and the playing of this music is helping with that. So let's move on to chapter 17 as we continue this story of Saul and David.